Good evening, class. Tonight we're going to talk about memory construction. Or in other words, why is our memory full of errors? Why is it that when we remember something, it might be wrong or just made up completely? So we've talked about this a little bit before, but memory not only gets forgotten, but it also gets constructed, meaning that it's imagined, selected, changed, and rebuilt, just manipulated overall by our act of retrieving it. And every time that we recall a memory, actually when we reconstruct a memory, because we're not recalling exactly what happened, then we are altered again when we reconsolidate the memory, meaning when we use working memory to send them into long-term memory. So every time we encode something, every time we retrieve something, the memories are altered a little bit. And later information alters earlier memory. No matter how accurate and video-like our memories seem, they're full of alterations. Some of the ways in which our memory ends up being an inaccurate guide to the past that we're going to look at in this lecture are the misinformation effect, imagination inflation, source amnesia, deja vu that we talked a little bit about already, and implanted memories. So let's take a look at the misinformation effect first. So this is incorporating misleading information into one's memory of an event. So we know about this because in 1972, Elizabeth Loftus and John Palmer did an experiment where they asked people to watch a video of a minor car accident. So afterwards, the participants were then asked, how fast were the cars going when they hit each other? Keyword hit. Another group were asked, how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other? So this group, the one who were asked how fast were they going when they smashed into each other, reported higher speeds and remembered broken glass that wasn't there. So this, if you remember, this is the priming effect. So when we are primed to think a certain way, our memories reflect that. So here's a little just depiction of what actually happened. So on the left you can see that's what actually happened, and on the right that's the memory construction. Because when they implied that the cars smashed into each other, that concept of smashed and everything that would apply to in a car crash influenced the people's memory. So when they recalled it, they recalled something completely different than actually happened. This is the information effect. There's also this idea of implanted memories and imagination inflation. So in one study, students were told a false story that spoiled egg salad had made them ill in childhood. As a result, many students became even less likely to eat egg salad sandwiches in the future because they thought that they had an ill experience in childhood. So Elizabeth Loftus, again, did a study where people were asked to provide details of an incident in childhood when they had been lost in a shopping mall. And even though there actually had been no such incident for these people, and by trying to picture the details, most people came to believe that the incident had actually happened. So this power of suggestion is very impactful in our memory retrieval. So simply picturing an event can make it seem like a real memory. And once we have an inaccurate memory, we tend to add more imagined details, as perhaps we do for all memories. So we're basically reconstructing this narrative every time we recall a memory. And it's like the telephone game. It gets sort of more distorted the more we recall it, and then we add more misinformation on top of that, and so on and so forth. So the lessons that can be learned from this: by trying to help someone recall a memory, you may implant a memory by priming. You can't really tell how real a memory is by how real it feels. So the very act of experiencing something that is very emotionally powerful, that in and of itself can influence the memory. And then, as we know, when you recall a memory, you're in a certain situation, both externally and psychologically or emotionally, so that also influences exactly what is recalled. We also have what's called source amnesia and misattribution. So think about this. Have you ever discussed a childhood memory with a family member only to find that the memory was either from a movie you saw or a book you read, from a story someone told you about your childhood but they were kidding, from a dream you used to have, from a sibling's experience? Have you ever had this? I know I have. So if you have, your memory for the event may have been accurate, but you experienced source amnesia. This is forgetting where the story came from and attributing the source to your own experience, when in reality it was implanted by hearing someone else talk about it. Now, we talked about deja vu a little bit in class, but this phenomenon also has to do with memory recall and the construction of memory. So this refers to the feeling that you're in a situation that you've seen or have been in before. If we look in the text, there's an experiment that's talked about where students got this feeling because they were actually shown an image previously. When we do things over and over every day, you may experience deja vu. I do on my car ride home a lot of the time. So, however, we can feel very certain that we've been in a situation before, even when we have not. This can be seen as source amnesia. So a memory from our current sensory memory, something that we're experiencing in the present, that we misattribute as being from long-term memory. We get sort of this cross-feed. So why does this happen? It turns out that sometimes our sense of familiarity and recognition kicks in too soon, and our brain tries to explain this as being actually caused by a prior experience, when it's just sort of triggering some of these associations in our mind with a previous experience. And as I said in class, the reason that we did this memory unit starting off the class was because it provides you with some tools to improve your memory, to hopefully improve your grades so that you can pass this AP test. There's a better way to study, trust me. So here are some ways to save overall study time and build more reliable memory. Learn the material in more than one way. Create multiple associations. Don't memorize these things by rote memorization, but by creating retrieval cues. The more associations and the more you link these concepts to in your memory, the more easy it'll be to retrieve them. So think of meaningful examples and connections. Connect these concepts to yourself, and you'll be much more likely to recall them. We're all narcissists. We love talking about ourselves, right? So we can do that with this. Explain the concepts in your own words. I can't stress how important this is. If you're just regurgitating a concept that you read in the book, that's all it's going to be, is just memorization of words. The meaning will be lost on you. So please try to get these concepts into your own words. Create mnemonics, songs, images, lists, anything that can help you associate these ideas with something that will allow it to be retrieved easier. Minimize interference with related material or fun activities. So that means study right before sleep or other mindless activities. Maybe when you're going for a drive, maybe when you have to do something that doesn't require you thinking about it a lot. But if you're studying and then going into a real crazy situation, you're not going to be able to encode that material in a way that will allow you to retrieve it. Have multiple study sessions spaced further and further apart after learning the material. Spend your study sessions activating your retrieval clues, including context, such as recalling what was happening when you learned the material. And finally, test yourself in study sessions. Practice your retrieval as if taking a test. If you practice all of these ways, I guarantee you will do great in this class. Have a good evening. We'll see you tomorrow.